is affecting everyone. But then, competitors, everyone from, someone like SPX or Alfa Laval, their numbers have started to turn around. And, what we're seeing with Kelvion, which is my sort of grave concern, is that if you look at some of their order intake, it's been very negative in sectors like food and beverages, which it just shouldn't be on an LTM basis. That has come down. And again, it's not the largest part of the business. It sort of makes up about sort of 5% of their order book. But that's been very, very soft. Power continues to weaken. Oil and gas has actually come back a little bit. But you just seen this sort of tepid order book on the top line. But sort of more than that, you've just seen absolutely atrocious cash flow generation and just margins come down and down and down. And so, my thoughts were just, effectively based on, what is happening with the margins and cash flow generation in the business. And then the sort of question, I guess, comes along from what you were saying, is that how much of this is self-inflicted? Because, the business has clearly lost a lot of margin in oil and gas and power. I mean, those markets are, again, still struggling to a large degree. But just in these core business, and if most of the business is customized, if it is bespoke and theoretically therefore higher margin in some of those sort of core business units, that should show that sort of Enexxio is coming down materially and the core business is holding up to a degree. And I guess that's my sort of big concern, that the core business, Enexxio has actually done okay. The big problem seems to have been in Kelvion, which is more of the core business units. And so I'm just trying to get my head around why has it underperformed so dramatically, particularly in the last sort of 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, I would say, I tried to describe it before, but from an outside-in perspective, a significant part of the problem is caused by the end markets, oil and gas and power generation. And another significant part is caused by not having the right operational model. And that does not necessarily mean the higher number of smaller factories. That's what I tried to elaborate beforehand. Because in many, many years, and I know the business over more than 2 decades, and I also know the competitors' business over more than 2 decades in the heat exchanger industry. There are always smaller competitors that don't have the footprint of an Alfa Laval, and they are making good margins and good profitability. Why is that? Because they cater with the exact business model that is required for the individual market. And I think what Kelvion hasn't been doing right over the last probably 2.5 years is they try to, with a view from let's say from a helicopter perspective, you look at it same as you did and say, oh, there are so many manufacturing places, so many different engineers in all these places. If I put some of them together, I should be able to harvest some synergies and get a better margin. What you lose is the ability to react in accordance with the business model that the individual market requires if you harmonize too much. What you also lose is the speed of delivery, because at the moment in time you decide, I relocate a manufacturing plant. No matter where you relocate it from, let's say from a high-cost country to a low-cost country, on the sheet of paper, it sounds like, okay, I have a little bit of labor arbitrage. Maybe, let's say, in Eastern Europe, the cost of personnel is only 1/3 of the cost of personnel in France or in Germany, and therefore I should have let's say, a profitability advantage if I relocate my whole plant over there. I have done more than 20, maybe 25 plant relocations, not only in the heat exchanger industry, but also in others. It always takes 2 to 3 years until you are fully relocated. And it takes sometimes even longer until you have the same productivity level again that you had in the giving plant when you look at the receiving plant. Why is that? Because many of this customized equipment has know-how, is know-how intensive in the manufacturing process. And that most of that know-how, or a lot of that know-how, is in the people's head. Meaning, if you are not able to relocate the people, which in most cases is applicable because you want to have this labor arbitrage, then you are losing that know-how, and the receiving plant first needs to learn and basically do these educational steps in a relatively short time that were done over many, many years in the giving plant. So I would say this initial initiatives that Kelvion started in saying we are trying